And okay, so here's my audience, and I have two more down here. Okay. Like a lot of young children, my favorite part of dinner was always dessert. The one dessert that always stood out to me were cream puffs. There is something special about the light, airy texture and the way the cool cream melted it all together. No matter what was being served for dinner, I knew I could always look forward to cream puffs. Today, we will be looking at how to prepare, bake, and serve cream puffs. In preparation to bake, we need to start by washing our hands, collecting our equipment, and preparing and combining all of our ingredients. The equipment we'll be needing today is a stand mixer, and if you don't have a stand mixer, you can always just use a bowl and a whisk, piping bags, a sheet pan, and a baking mat. And if you don't have a baking mat, that's also okay. I just like using a baking mat to make sure all my cream puffs are uniform size. You'll also be needing a saucepan of any size, measuring cups, a spatula, and piping bags. As for ingredients, you'll be needing flour, heavy cream, eggs, salt, vanilla, water, butter, and powdered sugar. To start out the preparation, we need to set our stove on high. And once you've set your stove on high, you can add your saucepan to the heat and add half a stick of butter and 1 cup of water. Once that mixture is brought to a boil, you can add 1 cup of flour. An important thing to note while adding your flour is that you do not want to overpack your flour, or else there'll be too much flour in the mixture and the mixture will be too dry. Once you mix that all together, the dough should be a thick consistency, and you're going to take that off the heat and let it sit for 30 minutes to cool. If you need it cooled faster, you can always remove it from the saucepan and place it into a separate bowl and stick it in the fridge. Now, while that's set aside, we need to work on our whipping cream. Into the stand mixer, you'll be adding 1 cup of heavy cream, 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar, and you can always add less or more depending on how sweet you like it, a splash of vanilla, as well as a pinch of salt. And you're going to mix that cream mixture for around 6 minutes on high. And you can always mix a little bit less or a little bit more, depending on how thick or thin you want your cream. Now moving back on over to the dough. The first step you need to do is touch the dough and make sure that it is cool to the touch. The reason you want it to be completely cooled is so that when you add your eggs in, the eggs won't scramble. We're going to be adding 4 eggs, and after adding each egg, you need to stir completely. And at the end, the dough will be a thick pancake texture. Now we need to add our dough into our piping bags. You can either do it how I have on the right and add the piping bag and cup it with your hand and add the dough into the piping bag. Or if you need more stability, you can always add the piping bag to a cup. Now you need to cut your piping bag and start piping out your cream puffs. You can do circles like I have, or really any shape you like. And like I said earlier, you do not need the baking mat, but I like to use it so that all my cream puffs are uniform size. Now moving on to baking. We need to set our oven to 400 degrees and put the cream puffs in the oven for 35 minutes. An important step to note is that when they're baking, you do not want to open up the oven door. Opening up the oven door will let the steam escape, and the steam is actually what helps create the hollow center of the cream puffs so that you can add your cream in. Now, once the cream puffs have baked for 35 minutes, you're going to take them out of the oven and let them set and completely cool for 30 minutes. And on to serving. We're going to take another piping bag and we're going to fill it up with the whipped cream mixture. And you can either use the technique that I used earlier or the technique with the cup. You're next going to take each of your cooled cream puffs and poke a hole in it. I used a chopstick, but you can also use a knife or a toothpick or even your finger, and you're going to stick the piping bag into that hole and fill it with cream. An important thing to note is that when filling it with cream, you do not want the cream to overfill and for the cream puff to burst. For serving, I kept mine plain as shown on the left, but you can also cut them horizontally and add strawberries and cream, or even dip them into chocolate. In conclusion, while cream puffs may seem very intimidating, it's actually one of the easiest desserts you can make. Whether you're making it for dinner or a just because dessert, it's always a delicious and satisfying treat. And let me show my audience once again. Here's my audience, the bottom screen. Thank you. Okay, you can all stop now. Thank you.